Good morning or good afternoon. Well, we're from Chiefs Kingdom. I'm Darren Smith along with Steve Walls, and we are live here at TIAA or Everbest Bank Stadium here in Jacksonville, Florida. This is going to be kind of hard to hear because we do have the speakers right above us, but we're live inside of the stadium here in Jacksonville as the Kansas City Chiefs take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Kick off in just a little bit over an hour. Steve, your initial thoughts on today's matchup? Will the Chiefs not only get back Travis Kelce, but the return of Chris Jones to the team?
Look, I'm excited, man. I posted on Twitter the other day. I'm like, the 2019, if you look back to then, this is where it all started.
It is.
This was the game one of the Super Bowl run year, the magnificent Super Bowl run year. So if that's how I remember TIAA Bank Stadium last time, then I'll remember it again the same way.
Yeah, now, of course, in that game, Tyreek Hill got injured and went off for the game, but the Chiefs still went off and won the game. They did not at the time have Trevor Lawrence, nor did they have Calvin Ridley, which, of course, since that time, the Chiefs did take on twice last year, beating Jacksonville twice at home both times in the regular season, along with within the playoffs.
Divisional game, yep.
But this time they add Calvin Ridley to that offensive firepower that they have with Christian Kirk, along with Travis Etienne. So looking at that, looking at what they have to offer, how do you see, well, what's your initial thoughts on this particular offense of the Jacksonville Jaguars?
I mean, when you look at the Jacksonville Jaguars, of course, the person that you watch out for is Trevor Lawrence, right? This is going to be the first game this season where you're going to see a dual threat quarterback where he's able to run if he needs to run for the first down, or if he wants to throw the ball, he can do that as well. So, I mean, that's my initial thought is like looking at the offense, okay, how do you stop Trevor Lawrence? And then you get the two-headed monster of Travis Etienne and also Calvin Ridley. Look at last week, Calvin Ridley, 101 yards and 8 catches, yep. And then Travis Etienne, of course, he was able to run the ball, I believe, for 77 yards, and he was in the pass game as well. So I think when you look at just the offense in total, this Jacksonville Jaguars team is pretty good, man.
You look at today's game, and again, one of the things that I mentioned, we do get Travis Kelce back. He got injured 2 days before the season opened against Detroit. We saw what the offense looked like without Travis Kelce. Now Travis Kelce coming back into this game, for the first time this season for Chiefs Kingdom. What's the biggest difference that you're going to see, and how does he make that big of a difference with this Chiefs offense?
It's kind of like what we say about Patrick Mahomes all the time, is that he makes people better. When Travis Kelce's on the field, he has to be accounted for by either a linebacker or a corner. Now, if you take a linebacker and try to make him guard Travis Kelce, of course, he's faster than linebackers. And if you pull a corner over and try to make him cover, he's much bigger and stronger than corner. So he's a matchup issue, and he's the type of guy that you'll have to put two people on. And so it's going to open up the wide receiver game. Now, the problem is what we looked at last week. The ball will get to him, but can they catch the ball?
Yeah. Now, again, kickoff here locally is going to be at 1 o'clock p.m. Here noon back in Kansas City. One of the things to watch out for, as you can probably tell, is going to be the heat, the weather, the humidity. There might be a little bit of rain showers, there's a 50% chance of it, but it's going to be more so when you look at Travis Kelce returning along with Chris Jones. It's going to be the humidity down in the field. Now, we were last year in that season along the field before COVID hit, and it was about 110 degrees on the field. Now, we're up here in the shaded area doing our pregame show, but it's still, it's hot.
Of course.
I promise you it's hot. I told before God and two white men that it's hot. Now, with that being said, I'm concerned about the pitch count of said Travis Kelce along with Chris Jones, because the Chiefs are going to need them for as long as possible while they're in the field, unless they can kind of spread, get out early, or they can kind of watch the pitch count. Now, they can do it more so on Travis Kelce, and they can bring him in and out. It's going to be Chris Jones that I'm more so concerned about, because if they're going to play action or no huddle or whatever to keep him out on the field where they don't make any changes, that might be hard to get Chris Jones off the field.
I think Chris Jones is going to be more of a third down threat than anything. If they do decide to put him on a pitch count, I would play him. If I'm Spags, I would play him more of third downs, because that's where he's going to be needed. Hey, we're not going to draw up anything. Just go get after the quarterback. Now, as far as Travis Kelce goes, is he 100%? I don't believe he is. But the fact that he's going to do whatever it takes. I think he's just that type of player. They say, all right, man, if I'm able to walk, if I'm able to run a little bit, I don't think there's ever been a season that Travis Kelce has been 100% healthy. I mean, just looking back over his whole career, I mean, he started out in 2013 with where he tore his ACL, right? So I don't think there's been ever a season where he's been 100% healthy. And that being said, I still feel like Travis Kelce is going to be that matchup issue, and he has to be accounted for out on the when the Chiefs' offense is on the field.
One of the things that fans should be aware of in this game is that they're going to go. I mean, it's in the player's nature that they want to play the entire game. Now, look, Travis Kelce, because he was injured, that means he's out of football shape. We don't know the type of shape that Chris Jones is in coming into the game. So I believe that Kelce can play a lot longer, play more of an expensive role, just because if he's moving around, as we saw in practice, over the last week or so, I think he'd be more so on the 100% side, being able to play a lot more snaps than Chris Jones.
And it's funny that you mentioned that, because we are in Florida. Chris Jones does own a home in Florida, down in Miami, and this is where he works out at all summer. So if there's anybody that's used to this heat, it'd be Chris Jones.
Yeah.
And so I feel like the heat is not going to be a factor for him, and I guess we can ask him post game about the heat, but it could be a lot warmer. Like, I mean, we remember back in 2019 when we were down on the field and it felt like 120 degrees on that turf. Yeah. And so I think you look at the heat being a factor today, but I don't feel like it's going to affect any of the guys.
One of the things that I'm hoping that we see in today's game is a greater focus on the run game. Yeah. Again, Patrick Mahomes should never be the leading rusher for Kansas City. I don't care how much pressure they put on him. We didn't see a lot. We didn't see a lot from Isaiah in the first game. What are you hoping to see this time around? I don't think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be playing in today's game. He had been ill most of the week, so I'm not sure what his status are as we're doing the show. They'll announce the strategy while we're doing this, but what are you hoping to see from the running game?
I had some people tell me earlier this week that Isaiah Pacheco has the worst vision. And I had to sit back and think about it for a minute. And my response to that was, are you basing it off of just this flat last game, versus the Detroit Lions? Or are you basing it off of last season? Because if you're basing it off of last season, there's no way that you can say that. Now, if you're basing it off of game one, got to remember, it was his first game back, just kind of like the preseason, like Kadarius Toney.
Yeah.
If you base it off of that, he didn't really play in preseason at all, coming off of shoulder surgery this past offseason. So when you think about just the run game, I thought it'd be more of an inclement weather situation today. However, it's sunshine, and so I don't feel like the Chiefs are going to be put in a situation where they're like the Philadelphia Eagles, where they run 8 times in a row, third down situation, don't get the third down, then you're on fourth down and you run it again. I really believe that if it needs to happen, then when you look at fourth down or third down, third and short, that's been a key problem for the Chiefs.
Defensively, Kansas City only gave up 14 points against that Detroit Lions team. Of course, they got 21 off of the pick six that took place when Kadarius Toney missed out on play. Now, we didn't get a chance to talk to Kadarius Toney or Scott Moore after the game. We did talk to him throughout the week. Mm-hmm. What are you hoping to see from them to make amends for what they didn't do in game number one?
If this is a game that Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are going to go back to Kadarius Toney, he's going to answer the call.
Yeah. And,
I mean, we've seen it. I know you've seen it. And a lot of people don't understand this. When guys make a mistake, especially wide receivers, Patrick is going to come right back to him. And Scott Moore talked about that. He's like, man, Patrick is one of those guys where if we drop a pass, he's coming right back to us just so we can get it out of our head, so we can forget about that last play. Is that what you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm looking at is just how Andy talked about going right back to him. Now, I think if the Chiefs on the drive, I think initially they'll try to get Kelce involved early, try to see where he's at. But I do see where they probably will be going after Sky Moore and Kadarius. One, to make sure that their confidence is still there.
Of course.
Get them involved early and feel like but you also don't want to lose Montez down to Skellen because he had 4 targets, only 2 catches in the game. So, I mean, we've talked before about this situation, so I think it's going to be real imperative that Patrick, if they don't focus so much on the run game right off the bat, that he gets all their receivers involved early, at least on the opening drive, to try to get them involved and to make sure that they stay active throughout the game.
But you know what, a guy like MVS, when you think about him, you don't have the situation. We talk about him, not being happy sometimes after games if he doesn't get the ball.
Yeah.
But we don't see the situation. I know I brought up the Eagles earlier, but we don't see the same situation as with the Eagle. What we saw with the Eagle sideline on Thursday night.
Yeah.
Right. We don't see that situation with Patrick, and so I feel like he can feel that way. However, when you look at the totality of this offense. And I'm going to ask you, when you look at the totality of the offense, how do you feel like, the MVS Patrick Mahomes connection is? Because it looks like to me, come hell or high water, they want Kadarius Toney to be the number one option.
I don't think that it's a problem with it being KT being the number one option. I just think that what I've seen over the last year or so is that they just haven't been able to connect. Now, they did connect during the playoffs, which was most important. Obviously, especially in the AFC Championship game. I just think for some reason it seems like no matter how hard they work together in the off season. Just like when the regular season starts, somehow, some way. And look, I don't know whether it's a situation where it's just the coverage. Maybe Mark Williams is not as fast as he used to be, or what. But it seems like every time Patrick overthrows him, or maybe he's thinking he's going to get further down, or he's going to have some separation, and we're not seeing that enough.
Yeah, it's weird that you say that because he had 2 positive catches last week.
Right.
And it seems like they just didn't go back to him. Why is it every time, MVS catches a ball, it's always deep down the field? Why doesn't he catch those intermediate routes?
That's a good question. I mean, now, I don't know if he's not running around, or it could be, if he does run the intermediate. Well, here's the thing. Now, what we saw in the Colorado State last night, maybe they need to run a lot more crossing routes, to get the defense, to catch them off guard. But I would think that the reason why they don't do it is because you got Kelsey, you got Skymore, you got all this bunched up in the middle. You're never taking the outside. That's really my only inclination.
I mean, because to me, he's not getting the Skymore quick, slant routes. Yeah. He's getting the deep post. He's getting the goal. So I'd like to see more of him getting those intermediate routes.
And that may be a question, maybe not on the air, but in the locker room during the week or something, to ask, his preference, so to speak.
Yeah.
His preference, so to speak. So when we're really going to defensive side of football, let's look at that right quick before. Actually, no, I want to stay with the offense. Jawan Taylor, we saw last week against the Detroit Lions, and we saw a lot of people say he jumped early. It wasn't really called until the last drive or whatever, where they caused the Chiefs field advantage. But he played for Jacksonville for his first 4 years for signing with the Chiefs in the offseason. He knows what they're going to face as it relates to the pass rush. But how much of what took place last week in the NFL now focusing on, those early starts, do you think it's going to affect this play and perhaps the Chiefs' offensive line?
You know what? I feel like if it was a problem, he would have called it. I mean, the refs would have called it.
Well,
it's not going to happen that many times and they not call it until someone brings it up. But you got a chance to talk to him earlier this week. What did he tell you?
I mean, he said that he's always been doing it. He says that he knows the snap count, and he's just able to. His reflex it just allows him to get started early before the But here's the thing: he's not the only one doing it. Lane Johnson does it for the Philadelphia Eagles, and other right tackles do it. Now, the question is going to be how they line up to make sure that he's legal to where he's lining up from.
Yeah.
Where you can, where he has to be over some sort of imaginary line. But that being the case, obviously, if the officials say something, I think they'll give him a warning right off the bat, and then after that, if he doesn't adjust, or if it becomes an issue, then I think that's when they throw the flag.
Yeah, I just he said that he also talks to the official, checks to make sure, that he's on side. So I think he'll be fine, especially now that people have called him out on it. Well, here's
the thing: he's been doing it, but the fact that he was the Chiefs and on national television, see, when he was the Jacksonville Jaguars. nobody caught it because nobody's watching them
Of
play.
course.
And so, but that's I guess that's the blessing and the curse. You play for the Chiefs, everything is going to be magnified, it's going to be amplified. So let's look at the defensive side of the football. Again, Chris Jones comes back. Now that he's back, he's going to be on the line with Mike Dana, Kershaw Ward, and even Joe Crawford. How does Chris Jones, even in the limited snaps in the intermediate snaps that he's been playing, how does he improve the defensive line right off the bat?
One of the things that I caught Andy Reid saying earlier this week is the fact that he went back to, and he didn't tell who what player it was. He said he had a linebacker when he was coaching with another team that was only supposed to play, this was Spags. He said that he had a linebacker that was only supposed to play a certain amount of snaps and ended up playing 60 or so snaps. He said, so it's going to be a game time decision to see exactly how many snaps that Chris Jones is able to play. But I feel like Chris Jones wants to prove it to himself that he's able to go longer than what we would expect him to go.
Yeah.
Of course, his body will tell him, like, hey, you're not going to be able to go this long. But then again, will the Chiefs try to save Chris from himself? And that's the question I want to ask you is, like, do you save Chris from himself, or do you let him just go balls out because you may not have him next year?
Oh, well, first of all, I believe Chris is going to want to go balls out just because he has to reach those incentives.
Of course.
Contractually. Now, again, only Chris knows his body well enough to know how much he can and can't take. Now, again, I think initially to start the first half off, he'll get those limited number of snaps. But I think second half, especially the fourth quarter, you keep him in the game.
Of course.
I mean, because again, we don't know how the game flow is going to go. And, and if there's a situation where Jacksonville gets up early, then you really, you kind of got to keep him in there. Now, if the Chiefs get up early, let's say the Chiefs get up 2 touchdowns. I think then you may limit him, but the problem is that that they're going to be passing the football to get back. So my question back to you is, do you pull him out then, or do you try to bring him in on third down the pass facility that he's got to do, but knowing that they're going to have to pass to catch up with you?
I think you let him spin. I think you like you said, at the onset, I feel like he'll start the game and then kind of taper off until second half, and then second half you just let him go, and you let him dictate, what he feels that he can do.
One of the things defensively, when you look at Jacksonville, and we talked about Josh Allen last week in their season opener in Indianapolis, he had three sacks. That's career high for him. They had 4 sacks in the team overall.
Yeah.
I mean, the challenge is that, now here's the thing, Patrick Mahomes hasn't been sacked yet. He's been hit, but hasn't been sacked. We know that the 3 interior linemen, Tooney, Humphreys, along with Trey Smith, they've been together for the last 3 years. You had Jawan Taylor. I mean, I'm not saying he was an all-pro or anything like that. I think he might have made a Pro Bowl. But you also had Donovan Smith. Now, I've been seeing online over the weekend, a lot of people are down on Donovan Smith, but again, I keep telling myself that the man didn't give they haven't given up any sacks. So they have to be doing something right. What do they need to do to make sure that they can withstand that fury defensive front that Jacksonville, knowing that they're going to bring it today against the Chiefs?
I think you keep doing what you've been doing. I mean, you don't change anything up. Here's the thing: had Patrick Mahomes, they didn't give up sacks in the preseason games. First game, I mean, so you just continue to do what you do until it ends up being a problem, and I don't foresee that happening. I mean, there's too much continuity along that offensive line, and then you have some veterans. These aren't guys that you throwing together as rookies or young players. These guys have been in the league, and they know what they're doing. And then, of course, you see the Monday night game with Aaron Rodgers, right?
Yeah.
These offensive linemen, they're not wanting to give up a sack like that to get there, especially a $500 million guy.
You know what? That's a good point. Because we did see that game. We were literally on the air when it happened to Aaron Rodgers last week. I think that, as Patrick said, he's very prideful, what I'm saying, and glad that his offensive line. And I think last week, I think in the game last week, that's one of the few times he actually got hit. Yeah, he got hit. Because he hadn't got hit at all during the preseason. So, look, we are live here in Jacksonville, Florida. Darren Smith along with Steve Walsh, the pregame cheat sheet inside of TIAA to Bank Stadium. And so, see, one of the things that I want to look at is just change up a little bit. You look at the seats, there are a lot of green seats, but within those green seats, and as you can see behind us, some of the Chiefs fans, I mean, we're up here in the little patio club area. There's Chiefs fans walking on around us. You see the what do you say when you see Chiefs getting away? Then you see Chiefs Kingdom traveling, and here supporting the team.
Here's the thing about Chiefs Kingdom, and what I've come to realize, they're starting to travel well, and not only that, when the team played early on, let's go back 2018, 2019. A lot of these games, a lot of these stadiums, the fans thought about it, but they didn't pull the trigger to go. Right. And now it's the second time around. It's like, all right, we've been to the Denvers, we've been to the Chicago, we've been to Vegas, LA, all those stadiums. Now it's like, all right, let's find somewhere else to go. And I think this is just one of those. Who wouldn't want to come to Florida, early in fall? I think this is just a stadium. You got Minnesota. I think fans are going to travel there. This is another one of those kind of takeover games between this one and Minnesota for this year.
Yeah, and of course, the Chiefs, this is the first of many. Our next road trip will be in 2 weeks when Steve and I travel to New York City.
That's another one.
Yeah, I mean, we're against taking on the New York Jets in a Sunday night match. And the following week, I guess, it's just a takeover for Kansas City when we travel to Minneapolis, Minnesota. Steve, I want to ask you about the X factor for you in today's ball game. We always do one for offense and defense. So if you're starting with offense, who do you or what is the X factor for you in today's game?
Initially, the obvious answer is wide receiving core, right? But right now, I'm gonna go with Travis Kelce. Because I actually want to see, how much of that injury is going to limit him and what he's able to do, or how much of what the Chiefs want to do with Travis is actually going to be done, right? Because they're putting him out there, and if, like you always say, man, if you active and you're on the field, you're expected to play no matter what.
Yes.
And so I just want to see how Travis, does and how his knee actually is, because this is one of those things. They called it a bone bruise, but you don't want that to linger throughout the season.
Here's the thing. I'm gonna go. When you do offense, I'm gonna flip to defense to kind of counter your part. But if my defense X factor is gonna be the linebackers. Two things, like you said, you do want to test Kelce and test that lane. Well, if I'm a defender, if I already know where your weakness is that knee, that's where I'm gonna focus on. That's how it is. So, now I'm not saying you're gonna take a cheat shot. I'm not saying you're not gonna do anything. Colorado State. But when you tackle him, well, one, you have to tackle him low anyway because he's the big guy. But you go for it late, but then, if you tackle him, get to the ground, you might, add a little oomph to it. It's not about an extra hit, but when you're on top of him, put a little pressure on him before you get up. So I can see that being the factor, and that's the next factor for Jacksonville. Now, but then sitting on the offensive side of football, I will go to a wide receiver. I will go to Sky Moore and today because one, the expectations that coming into the season. And as you said, Andy Reid said that they expected to take on a medal with number one wide receiver. Sky Moore, everybody expected Sky Moore to have that jump from year one to year two. And combined, they had one catch out of 8 targets. So that's unacceptable. Now, Sky Moore talked to the media. I think you might have been after when he talked to the media. I talked to him in the locker room and told him that I thought it was big for him to go out there and speak to the media after avoiding us last week. One, because that allows you to get last week's game out the way. Address it, get it out the way. Now you can focus on this week's game. And when I talked to him, he was happy that I said that and stuff like that. And so it's like, cool, now you can focus on it. We know what you can do. You know what you can do. You caught a touchdown in the Super Bowl. So for me, the expectations can't be too big because you did it at the highest level. You did on the biggest stage. So just go out, play your game. And now I do know today Tony spent some time on the dead machine last week after practice. Again, you know what you're supposed to do. You know the plays. If you're afraid to get hit, that's something I can't do for you. But I know you're not. So basically, go out there, do your job. You know what I'm saying? Get the ball first so you try to make any moves down the field with him, catch the ball, and then make your moves, and we'll see what happens. Defensively, what's your expectation for the Chiefs?
I would say the secondary. I would say today's going to be a tough test with Calvin Ridley. Now, these guys have seen all the best of the best, right? I mean, they've seen the different wide receivers throughout the league. I mean, you've seen the Raiders, you've seen the Chargers with Keenan Allen, you've seen Stephon Diggs, Jamar Chase. These young guys have seen all that. So I don't feel like there's going to be anything that Calvin Ridley is going to be able to do that the Chiefs cornerback, the young cornerbacks haven't seen. And so, but I feel like you're going to have to stop Calvin Ridley. I think you got to cut the head off the snake. And then if Travis Etienne gets out in the pass coverage, you're going to have somebody that checks him immediately. So you don't want Trevor Lawrence to go out here and have a 300 passing yard day. That's just not what you want to do. So that being said, my X factor would have to be the cornerbacks.
So offensively, if you're Jacksonville, I do believe that everything's going to start up front. And for me, my X factor in terms of defense is going to be, well, actually for both offense for the Jags and defense for the Chiefs. It's going to be that offensive line, defensive line. I said it because, again, if you know Chris Johnson's going to be on a snap count, you actually run the football more to try to, play off of that.
Yeah.
Get ETN involved early. You have the Chiefs think about them before you start throwing bombs or whatever the camera really. So, obviously, it always comes down to coaching, matchups, and chess factors. But I do think until we know exactly how much and how long Chris is going to be able to go, I think if you're Jacksonville, you're definitely going to test that defensive line, which having CTN and Christian Kirk, along with Eminem.
Yep.
What? You got to.
Yep.
I mean, take advantage of it. And then, like I said, then once they focus on that, then perhaps then you hit them, with Kirk, and you hit them with Calvin Ridley. Now, if I'm Kansas City, Chris Jones, I think that's the next factor. Because he has said he's in game shape. He said he's ready to play. So if that's the case, look, money makes people do certain things and feel a certain way. What I don't like, and this is something I'm going to talk about, the only thing I don't like is that he could have signed an extension in the offseason, guaranteed 2 more years, playing whatever. But because of how things played out, he basically got his regular deal this year instead of added to it. He didn't really wait. Look, you got opportunity to get more money, but now that puts more pressure on you. What's that mean? If you hurt, you can't really afford to come out. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if it's more incentive-based, and so for me, Chris Jones is going to be the X factor because if you're going to start in this game throughout the season, like he can't afford injury. I mean, injury is part of the game, but because he doesn't have an extra 2 years in the team, this is the make or break here. So it's going to be imperative that not only does he ball out each and every game, but he doesn't put himself in a situation where he gets injured.
I agree. This is why they play the game, right? Yep. I mean, the Chiefs, I don't feel like they're going to go lose 2 games in a row. I just don't foresee that happening, So I'm excited about today, man.
Let's look at finally our predictions. Yeah. How do you see this game going? Who wins this ball game?
I think it's going to be a close game. I would say 31-34 Chiefs. So it'll come down to a field goal. Yep, 34-31 Chiefs, right. I mean, it's going to come down to a field goal. Now, here's the thing about it, and I said this last week. Anytime the Chiefs can hold, Chiefs defense can hold a team to 14 points, they should win that game, man. Do I think they'll hold this Jaguars team to 14 points?
I think there's something about it.
I don't think so, but,
But we also didn't think they was going to hold a quote-unquote high-powered offensive Detroit Lions team to 14 points either.
That's true.
I mean, they got the 21 essentially because of the pick six.
Yeah. I mean, I have the Chiefs 34-31. I mean, a field goal.
Yeah.
Harrison Butker, what's up?
I've got Kansas City winning. Again, for me, it's going to be depending upon how they withstand this humidity and stuff. I know we're about to be through with this, but if it's a high scoring affair, I got Kansas City 31-27. If it gets to be a more look, I think the Chiefs put points up on the board today regardless. I think they do, only because you get Kelsey back. There are throws that Patrick would normally make to Kelsey, he would make to nobody else.
Yeah.
They keep the drive extended.
I agree.
To get them into the end zone. So
I agree with you.
I think Kansas City gets back into that 28-30, 35 mode. And I do think if Jacksonville comes back, it'll be towards the tail end. So I like Kansas City. I don't normally have them to cover, but I like Kansas City 35-28 in this game.
Okay, I like that.
All right, so before we get out of here, Steve, folks, I know you want to take this sponsor thing right as well. I mean, we both looking nice inside. We looking casting clean. You want to give a shout to your sponsor before we get out for a start rating on it?
Yeah, it is raining. Just want to give a quick shout out to Dillard's. It's on the road, so make sure you go check them out.
Todd White, Todd Folger, for Steve Walls, with Gerald Ruff, like that Gates Barbecue, and the Connor Group as well. For Steve Walls, this is Darren Smith. We are out. Thanks for joining for the pregame season. Join us afterwards. We'll give you our post do the post-game show, bring you interviews, the press conference after the game. We are out of here.
Football fans, you can't spell gate without Gates, and great tailgates start with Gates sauces and seasonings. Named synonymous with mouth-watering tailgates. When you make your list of tailgate essentials, add Gates sauces and seasonings to that list. Spice up your tailgate experience with that unmistakable great taste. Available in 4 tantalizing flavors. Classic, sweet and mild, mild and hot. Find it at your local grocer, and if you don't see it, ask for it. Visit GatesBarbecue.com to purchase any of the great sauces and seasonings. Great tailgates start with Gates.